Come here. Get off. Today we're talking to Mistress Domonique, pronouns she and her. Often known as the Sweet Domo, Mistress Domonique is a sensual sadist who enjoys loving up on people. Mistress Domonique believes that all kinks matter, and she's been a sexual educator and professional dom for a little over a decade. Yo, thanks for joining us today.
My pleasure. Thank you so much for having me. Thank you so much. So excited to be here.
Yay, we are so excited to have you. Hey.
Yes.
So tell us a little bit about your work.
Yeah, sure. So I would say as an adolescent, that's kind of when I've gotten my start into the world of sex in general. It was my responsibility to educate my peers on how to have fun, safe sex. So you can catch me in high school passing out condoms, or, telling folks where they can go to get tested, or even how they can put a condom on creatively at a very young age. And from there, I kind of just stayed and evolved. So from there, you would catch me selling sex toys. And when I got out of undergrad, that's when I kind of decided that I wanted to fully become a professional dominatrix. Since in my personal life, I kind of just carried this dominant spirit wherever I went. So that plus this freedom that I have around sexuality in general just kind of pushed me into everything domination.
I thought it was interesting. You said it was your responsibility to teach folks around you. Why? Why did you feel like that was something that you needed to take on when you were in high school?
A lot of my classmates were getting pregnant. And a lot of my classmates then were having sex. Although when I started educating folks, I was not sexually active at all, y'all. I was not fucking at all.
You're like, I read these books, though.
I did. And I attended the workshops in the classes, right, put in the hours. But knowing that my classmates couldn't talk to their parents about it at all. So it's like, okay, who am I going to talk to about it? And I know that I can get a raw, educated answer from someone who's not going to judge me. And I mean, it kind of spread, whereas one person would be like, yo, I wonder what this is going to look like. Like, I want to do this in a tunnel right now. What are your thoughts? And I'm like, yes.
We had those too.
Listen, the tunnels exist. The tunnels exist. And I'm like, that's fine, but if you're going to get oral sex then, or you're going to get head, here's a condom, here's a flavor condom. What's her favorite flavor? Here's mango, here's strawberry. So wow. It was just kind of knowing that they had access to someone who wouldn't judge them. And, everyone's doing it. So, why not? And I do think that because no one else was giving it in my school, meaning you either had to go to the nurse's office to get condoms. So, it kind of just, I'm a servant at heart. So it just made sense that I love learning about sex. Let me just help others.
Sharing is caring.
Literally. Literally.
So what do you like most about your work?
I love it when, so I have male subs, women subs, female subs, as well as black, white, right? Kind of on the spectrum. And I will say that one thing that is common is each sub or client carries this disbelief that you aren't a real dom, right? I don't know why it happens. Maybe because they've been tarnished in the past. But there's a point where every single sub gets to where they're like, wow, like you're everything that, I didn't know that you are, but now I see. So I think for me, that's the most joyful part. When that total submission comes in a way of them finally recognizing that not only am I superior, but, you know, you desire to serve and completely obey and worship me with your entire existence.
Yes. Yes. That would be my favorite part too.
I think that's really like my favorite
part.
Wow. Because from there, then it's like, okay, Mistress Domonique, like, what do you need? Or what can I do? Right? So it's just a matter of like, here's my life. I now trust you to, you know, give me my allowance and make sure bills are paid, or, you know, I now am open to trying so many different things with you just because that's there. So I think that's my favorite part.
Wow.
Yeah.
So I even hate to ask this because it was such a high listening to you explain your favorite part. But what's your least favorite part?
That's a good question. My least favorite part. I think there's like two parts. Number one, subs or potential clients who think that like they can just slide in my inbox or DM just to kind of like have a conversation just because they think that that's something that's welcomed. Like, I think that there's a difference from admiring, but kind of like, oh, mistress or goddess, I want you to do A, B, C, or D. It's just like you're trying to get your rocks off simply by me telling you no, fall back. Like, I don't like that.
Yeah.
But I also think, you know, being a Black Dom, wow, it's really, really old, right? I think it's new for the kink world in a way that social media now puts a face to us in a way that it hasn't before, right? Usually the main face that you would see of a dominatrix or a professional dominatrix would be a white woman. And I will say now, there's kind of like this, I don't want to say anti-Black sexual worker type of thing, but we are attacked a lot more aggressively than our white counterparts. In a way, our accounts are reported a lot often, posts are deleted. You can catch us in jail a lot often. Oftentimes our money is held up in ways that won't necessarily be for the other. So I think just knowing that and having to constantly navigate that is just has and always will be a challenge.
And by jail, you mean like Twitter jail, Instagram jail, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, cool. All right. So the reason we have you on is that last week we read this book and it's called Fucking Fall in Love.
Y'all, I've read it.
Did you? Oh,
I read it. So I read it today.
Good.
I read it today.
So look at you. Yes. So there's this scene where Jane has sex on camera for the first time. And we understand that you do all things kink, all kinks matter. And I understand that as a dominatrix, you don't always have sex with your clients. You may not have sex with any of your clients, but we wanted to chat with you a little bit about just having sex on camera.
Yes.
So tell us about the first time you stepped in front of the camera as an amateur. Or as a professional.
Right.
So I was really, really young. Well, not super young. Definitely like in undergrad. And I was dating this guy and we went to the movies and we decided to hook up in the movies. And I was like, hey, let's record it. And we kind of just recorded it in the back of the movie theater. And that's when super, and you know, it was by coincidence that no one was in the movie. Like, there was no one in there. So it just made having the flash on a lot easier, right?
It sounds like a really great story. I love it.
But it was then I realized, it was there that I realized that I enjoyed being recorded in a way that, like, it turns me on in a way that I have never, ever thought that being recorded itself or even just having sex in front of people is definitely, like, a kink of mine.
Yeah. Well, I too. So, did you have any hang-ups about, like, seeing your body on film? I know the first time I saw myself, I was like, oh. So what about you?
I would say when I first started, no. Just because I had the foundation that I did around sexuality, right? Like in those trainings, they would be like, yeah, girl, go grab a mirror and, examine yourself, right? So that was something that was severely normal to me. So seeing it was just like, oh, girl, now I see you squirting. Like, oh, that's cute, right? That's really cute. But I think now, just because I've gotten older, and now it's like my eczema decides that it wants to do its own type of thing.
Girl, you and me both.
I find that there are moments when I'm like, I wonder, like, how can I edit that, right? So you would catch me, depending on like what type of dark spot it is, I'll put a cute emoji on it, or I'll make the picture large enough so that you won't see it. But that's something that, this eczema is a journey. But that is something that I find that is one of the only things that I think about with regard to my body as it relates to being on camera.
Wow. Well, conversely, we know that some folks, that's part of why they aren't comfortable, doing things like filming or taking nudes. Like it's not really why I don't take nudes. I think it's just because it's not my natural thing versus Erica, where she's like a fucking master. She's a master snapper.
Right.
But what tips do you have for folks like me who may be apprehensive about it, or even just people who like want to do it but aren't sure like how to get the best angles or how to cover up the things that they don't like how you were just saying with emojis? Like, what are some things people can do to be more comfortable in front of the camera with their bodies?
Yeah. I think the first things first is figuring out whatever things that you need or whatever process you need to get you at your most 100% authentic comfortable. So whatever that is, whether that's some tea and a nice detox bath or a nice meal or a book or a nice foot massage, whatever it is that you need to get in your I am 100% out of my mind space, I think that's the most important first step. And then the next step from there is, now that you're out of your head, how can we start feeling sexy, right? So is that putting on some nice, sexy R&B or some lingerie or doing something different at that time that you're taking those photos that you normally wouldn't do, right? So normally I don't wear makeup at all. I think it's like a piece of me having to find my perfect skin tone. Plus, I feel like it's a lot of labor into it. But when it comes time to make content or be sexy, I know that I'm putting on makeup because it adds to it, right? It adds to it. And then from there, only you know what it takes to make you feel at your sexy. And whatever that is, do it and stay out of your head. And also recognize that you are a human being and the sexual urges that you feel are natural. So many people try to hide them and like fight them in a way that is like, oh, if I touch this and that feels good, I'm doing something wrong. Or, I have too much cellulite on this booty cheek, so it looks a little funny, right? And I think it's in those moments when we have to do a little extra loving up on that booty cheek or extra loving up on that area, kind of affirming it. That's how we'll get there.
That's dope. So I'm interested in how we've had some folks on the show before, and we've talked about how their work impacts their personal relationships, whether they're intimate or otherwise. I'm really curious as to how that works with you. Like, how does your work impact your intimate relationships and vice versa?
That is a really good question. I'm still figuring it out. In terms of professional, it doesn't impact it really. I'm trying to kind of merge the two, but it's been a little challenge. But personally, I actually just got out of a season of my life, whereas the person that I was in that season with was supportive of me being a dom. However, didn't want to talk about it, didn't want to help me look at pictures, didn't didn't want anything to do with it at all.
They were supportive as long as they didn't have to deal with it.
They ain't have to deal with it at all. But it's who I am, right? So if I'm laying in bed at night and I want to look up some thigh-high boots and I want you to see if they're cute or not, right? At the end of the day, as my partner, I would desire for, that person to be there. However, they were just like not feeling it at all. And at this moment, of course, like, I don't want to say it's because of that reason alone, but we're no longer in partnership. And I will say since then, moving forward, it is something that I have communicated to any person that desires to get to know me when I feel like the time is appropriate for me to communicate that to, just because I don't have sex with any of my subs or clients. Because at the end of the day, I want an alpha man. I don't want a submissive man doing me in the bedroom. Like, that's not what I desire. So when I communicate that to potential partners, I think they get it, but it's a piece of them recognizing like, wow, she's kinky as hell. So for them, it's like, how do I get the best of both worlds, right? But for me, it's just kind of like letting them know that while I may bring some things in, I am not showing up as Mistress Domonique in the bedroom. And sometimes folks don't understand that.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Well, the right man will.
Absolutely.
The right person will.
You are absolutely right. I concur.
So what advice do you have for folks who want to kind of follow in your footsteps professionally?
The first step, I would encourage them to find their why, not only because it will help them navigate different spaces, but it will also help ground them when they have moments of, I'm not meeting anyone, or no one seems to be interested, or other folks are getting it, or whatever, moments of discomfort. I will also encourage them to do research. You can never stop learning. Like, there's never enough information at all. If you meet a professional dom who says that she knows it all, she's learned all the information, so she doesn't have to learn anymore, I would, try to go the other way. Just because anyone, not even in the field of domination, but if anyone says that they're stopped learning, I would be hesitant of that person's personal growth and where they are in life. I will also encourage them to, on top of the why, it's a piece of, why not other things in a way, if that makes sense, right? So when you choose to be a dom, right, it is making the conscious decision that you're going to be a sex worker. And oftentimes when you're a professional dom, those lines can get blurred in other things. So I would say literally take as much time as you need to figure out where you desire to go in the realm of sex work, because it is super broad, right? There are some doms who choose to have sex with their clients or just have sex with other people via escorting, right? There are other doms who may sell pleasure products. There are other doms who may just do Kama Sutra. I'm currently studying Kama Sutra. So it literally just depends on where it is that you desire to go. But wherever it is that you go, it literally should be who you are. Like, don't try to do something that you're not at the end of the day. There's nothing wrong with learning other things, but don't try to do things that you're not, because folks won't authentically gravitate towards you. It'll be harder.
So we know that you choose to hide your identity online.
I do.
And my question for you is, why did you make that choice? And how does that impact your work, for better or worse?
That's a good question as well. Such good question. Snaps.
Thanks.
So initially I chose to be undercover because of my work. I'm a public servant, in my vanilla life. So as COVID is going on, it is literally my responsibility to save this area.
Oh, girl.
And then knowing that while I do desire to have some of my colleagues, switch over to my dark side of things, right? I know that upon initial reaction, folks won't understand. And where I am at this moment, I don't have the space or energy to offer an explanation, right? I have been thinking and plotting and strategizing of when I will be switching over, because I've been playing with my vanilla page in a way that every 3 days, I'm dropping some heavy BDSM stuff. Like super wow. Whereas colleagues from work follow me, departments from work follow me. And it's wow stuff. And whereas people are hitting me up and they're like, wow, I didn't know that you were into this stuff. Or, and I'm like, yes, I love it, but that's kind of how I'm planting my seeds. But I do believe ultimately, more than likely when I transition out of this work and begin to really focus on me being a public servant away from this occupation, then I'll do it, because they'll mesh together easily. I can walk everywhere and say, yes, I do this and I do that. It is impacting me because a lot of folks think that I'm fake. Sometimes just because they're like, oh, there's no face. Or why aren't there many pictures up? So whereas normally someone would send a tribute and then an application, I'm now finding that I have to answer questions before we even get to them filling out applications, just because they're like, oh, why can't I see your eyes, or different things like that. So on my Instagram, you'll see that while it's only a few pics, I put those pics there so that you can see oh, wow, this skin looks like this skin and this body looks like that. Just so that, folks can just leave me alone with wanting to see all of this so soon.
So 2 things, and they're very different, but I just wanted to touch on them. First, you said applications and tributes. Yes. So can you kind of explain that situation on how a sub would approach you, yada, yada, yada.
Yeah.
Also, with the idea of your identity being hidden online, I still want to touch on the fact that you were still able to find successes and wins in that. It just took a little bit more work, correct?
Absolutely. I had to maneuver a lot differently in other spaces outside of mainstream social media, just so that I can get traction to that social media page. You can catch me out in events a lot more than you will on social media, right? Okay. Or on other websites like FetLife, macking and hanging than you will on Instagram. Plus, I also found that when you have contacts in your phone, they still send pages. And I accidentally found one of my professors pop up as a suggested contact on Instagram, which I partially kind of don't care, because I had a semi-crush on that professor. But it's just kind of how is this happening? I don't know why this is happening. For the applications and tributes, so excuse me. So subs are different from clients. So submissives are those who I consider those who have decided that they want to worship me, serve me, and obey me. Submissives or slaves. So in order to become my submissive or slave, you have to fill out an application. And the application works 2 ways. Number one, it shows me that you're not wasting my time. You're not just trying to hear me tell you no so that you can beat yourself, right? But that it also helps me understand if we're compatible. Because you may want some off the wall shit that's just not going to work over here, that I won't know until after you've sent me money, had I not done that application. Therefore, I'm oh, wow, now I'm stuck with doing something that I didn't really want to do because I didn't have that information up front. So normally what happens is let's say on Instagram, for instance, you are not sliding in my DMs unless you have sent a tribute. A tribute is a monetary gift just because you want to get mistress attention, right? You know that my time is valuable, and you know that you'll be wasting it if you try to approach me without compensating me for my time. Therefore, you don't do it. So you send the tribute, and then you would then say, tribute sent, mistress, tribute sent, goddess, and then approach me with your inquiry or your question or whatever statement it is that you wanted to do. From there, I would encourage you to fill out the application, and then we'll meet up, and then we'll figure out what our kind of relationship will look like. But that's completely different from those who desire to be clients.
Okay. Well, thank you.
My pleasure.
What other precautions should people take to protect themselves if they want to get into this line of work?
I would say the top 3 would be, number 1, know your health, like inside and out. From your respiratory system down to your reproductive system, right? How much oxygen you have flowing in your body. Because when you're trying certain things, and a good Dom wouldn't do anything on a sub that they wouldn't do to themselves. So when you're trying certain things, you want to make sure that you're okay for it and your body is okay for it. And also, although you aren't having sex with your sub, sometimes you are coming into like skin to skin contact with your subs. So it was really, really important for you to figure out if you have any type of infections, whether bacterial or viral, that's in your body. So any of the H's, right? HPV, HIV, herpes, hepatitis, those things you will not really know until you get blood drawn or you receive something from cultures. So you have to be really, really important on getting tested regularly and know your status. The next thing I would say from that is knowing where the sex laws are in the country, in your area or your jurisdiction. Because while some things are changing, at the national level, things are kind of remaining the same at the state and county. So you have to be careful with maneuvering, because in certain states, being a dominatrix is seen as straight prostitution, as solicitation. So you have to tread those lines very, very carefully. The next thing I would say is don't properly vet your subs. Like, you shouldn't just be meeting Jack and Joe off of Instagram and then inviting them over to your house just to beat their ass. Like, that's an absolute no-no. You have to check them the same way that you would check a potential partner. If you check potential partners, if not a little bit more, and never have them at your house. I would say those are like the top 3 things for safety.
That's great. Mm-hmm. So what can we, as folks who listen to the show, do to support sex workers?
Sure. I would first start by following, sharing, and talking about as much as you can Black Dom sorority. If you aren't familiar, it is a sorority for Black and Afro-Latino women who are basically deciding that they want to join a community full of Doms, right? So I would start there by either following us on Instagram or supporting any of our lovely Doms who are part of Black Dom sorority. Shout out to our founder, Mistress Marley. I will also say advocacy is a really, really big thing. I'm really, really big on the power of our voice and using that to kind of forward move the movement. So if you know of any policies being changed that's impacting those who are sex workers, get out to your council meetings. DC has open council hearings, get out to them, express your concern. There's nothing too big or too little that cannot make an impact or will not make an impact, so do that. But also, open up your mind a little bit. Everyone has a kink. everyone has a kink. So if we think of it from that way, I think that there'll be less shunning. There'll be a lot less stigma that's going around, and it'll just result in a more open society with less judgment and hate.
Yep. So are there any myths about sex work that you want to dispel?
Ooh, let's see. That we are all hoes. That we're all hoes.
We like a good hoe, but not everyone is a hoe.
Listen, we love them, but I think that we're automatically hoes. I hear that a lot. And even like with older generations, because my mom knows that I'm a dom. I had to tell her because she's like super extra. So I had to let her know from the beginning. So I don't know about y'all parents or family members, but she watches the ID channel a lot, right? True crime and all that stuff. So she's like, as soon as I told her, she's like, oh, I saw something like that on True Crime last night. Yeah, she went to the hotel and her family couldn't find her or something like that. And I'm like, girl, relax. Understand that you raised someone super intelligent. So I'm not going to put myself in harm's way, right? So, like, just chill. She also said in that conversation, like, so does this mean that you, like, about to be fucking for money for everybody? Like, that's hoe stuff. And I'm like, well, Mom, we're not going to judge how people get their living, first of all. Second of all, that's not what I'm doing, right? Like, I don't desire to have sex with my subs because ultimately I desire to be in a partnership with an alpha man, right? So that isn't going to happen. But I think that's kind of one of the biggest, that a lot of folks kind of just think that just because you're stripping or, you know, you're a cam girl, you're a phone sex operator, that you're heavily promiscuous. But not to say that that's a problem, right? Because listen, we enjoy, but I think society, listen, I think that society just kind of like makes it a bad thing when in reality, everybody thinks about sex a lot. I think one of those myths, that's probably the biggest. Every other myth, like when I hear it, I usually debunk it right there. Just because I don't have time for it to be circulated.
Yeah.
That's what's up.
Yeah.
Well, you know, you were saying earlier about how you use your IG account to kind of verify, you know, so folks can see that you're a real person. Can you tell us what it is so folks can find you online?
Sure. So you may see me circulating through a Tinder or Bumble in your city. Or you may not. But my Instagram as well as my Twitter is the Sweet Domo, and that's spelled THEE, Sweet Domo. And you can find that on Instagram as well as Twitter. On FetLife, you can find me as the Sweet Domo or Domonique Sweets.
Alrighty.
Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
That wraps up this week's episode. It was so good to talk to you.
Oh, it was so great, you know, chatting with you all and you all having me on here. I really enjoyed myself in this talk.
Same. It's always fun.
Thank you.
It is.
All right, everybody, thank you for tuning in, and we'll be back next week.
This episode was produced by us, Erica and Kenrya, and edited by Ballistic. The theme song is from Brazy. We want to hear from y'all. Send your book recommendations and all the burning sex and related questions you want us to answer to theturnonpodcast@gmail.com. And please subscribe to the show on your favorite podcast app. Follow us on Twitter @theturnonpod and Instagram @theturnonpodcast, and find links to our books, transcripts, guest info, and other fun stuff at theturnonpodcast.com. And remember, The Turn On is now a part of the Frolic Podcast Network. You can find more shows you'll love at frolic.media/podcast. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you soon. Holla!